All right, so UFC 298 is over, and I watched it with my family and some friends, and it was definitely worth buying it. I didn't watch everything because I know they had like they had the prelims, and then they had like the, I don't know, what was it called, the pre-prelims or whatever it is. I didn't watch any of those fights, but I did get most of the prelims and did get the main card, and I have to say that it was definitely worth it. It was. A lot of interesting fights. Like, what's that girl's name, Mackenzie Dern or whatever? That fight was hilarious. Oh, that's the one thing I like about women's fights, is that they're just really funny. Some girls are pretty good. Like the girl she fought, I don't remember her name. She was a pretty clean fighter, and she had some good instincts, killer instincts. When she threw punches, she meant business. I do respect that. A lot of women that go in there, especially a lot of these kind of pretty white girls who come from maybe some sort of whatever it is, maybe some sort of, maybe they're good at karate or jujitsu, or they're into some sport and now they're coming in. It's always something like that. And, these girls don't really have the killer instincts. They're treating it like a sport, like it's sparring. There's no killer instinct. When they start getting hurt or they get put into position, they tend to kind of put themselves in a little ball. But yeah, that fight was really funny. Those are the only girl fights I like, are the funny, like they do stupid girl stuff. I'm like laughing. The way she got hit in the face and then she just went down. It would be one thing if someone hit you and then from the punch you go down, but to get hit and then stop and then go down, it was like, I've never. It was just such a non MMA fight. It really did seem like some backyard with a couple girls. Get a couple crackheads, and you say whoever wins this fight gets the rock or whatever. But yeah, that was funny, and man, fights were really good. Fights were really good. The Marab Cejudo fight. Oh man, I have to say I never liked. I was a big Peter Yan, and still Peter Yan fan. And then with Marab basically sprinting at him for 5 rounds, I mean, how is this guy not on something? And all the people who are trying to say that he's not, again, you have no proof for that. And the amount of people who have been caught taking stuff nowadays, um, there's a lot of guys who we know for sure were taking stuff, but they never got caught. So that says everything. Like Johnny Hendricks, 100%, he never got caught. But the difference between him fighting George St. Pierre and then him, like once USADA came in, it was no more KOs, right? No more KOs. He can't just sprint at you for 5 rounds anymore. And he never got caught. Never got caught. Technically, there's no evidence, right? But yeah, Marab was. He's starting to grow on me a little bit. I don't like him. I think he's on something. His fighting style is really boring, but his personality, though, I think he generally is pretty funny. He's just the right enough of cringe, where Cejudo was too cringe. He was like everyone in the room was cringing. It was really hard to like him. But yeah, Marab going in there, totally obliterate him, totally humiliate him. I'm not a huge Henry fan. I don't really care. I know, like I was kind of out of the MMA community for, I don't know, a good couple years, and that was kind of the time that his reign was. So I wasn't really a part of that. But he got totally humiliated, right? He goes in there, he gets out wrestled, literally is getting like Fortnite danced on, right? In the guillotine, and at the end where Marab is holding up this gold medalist and then slams him down. And then at the very end, the last 10 seconds, he's like laughing in his face, posing. And then to make matters even worse, after the fight was over, they didn't give Henry the mic for him to do his retirement, and then everyone just totally forgets about him. So if he does retire, it'll just be some quiet little thing on his YouTube channel, as opposed to some honorable whatever, like him walking off into the sunset. No, he got beat and humiliated, and they didn't give him the mic, and that was the end of the fight. Like, that was the worst case scenario that could have happened to Henry, was what happened that night. So it sucks to be him, but I do know there's a ton of people out there that don't like him. So there's a lot of people who are having fun with that. So there's that. And then, man, the Robert Whitaker and Paulo Costa fight, it was a good fight, but come on. It was just like, the whole time I'm like, will Paulo Costa just go? You know, it's like you're the bigger, stronger dude. Whitaker is not gonna, unless he hits you with that head kick, he's not gonna land anything that's really gonna hurt you. You know, Whitaker is not gonna throw a jab or a 1-2 that's gonna make Paulo Costa start dancing. It's not gonna happen. If he just decided to go, like do some Mike Tyson, just start throwing, like basically, if he did like Ilia Topuria and just started, just go forward and start throwing combinations, some power hooks, you know, go high, and then when his hands come up, go low and then go high again, or the opposite. You know, just get him up against the fence, bully him. You're the bigger, stronger guy. Throw these big power left hooks to his body. Go for his liver. Where was any of this? You know, he was just standing right in front of him doing this chess match, and it's like, dude, this is what Robert wants. He wants to just sit here in front of you, and he's gonna feint his way in, and he's gonna hit you with jabs and a couple of these, you know, looping punches, and he'll try to throw a kick here and there, and he'll work the calf kick, but he's going to stay at kickboxing range, and that's what he wants. And Paulo Costa was just playing that game the whole night. Now, Paulo Costa did have his moments. He did land that beautiful spin kick, which somehow didn't knock out Robert. I don't know how it didn't, considering Whitaker has one of the worst chins in the game. He gets rocked every single fight, like at least once or twice in a fight. And, you know, for him to be able to just eat that and not get dropped and continue fighting, I think he even got hit with a heel. I don't know how he did it. That was, I have no idea. But, you know, Robert Whitaker, you have to give him anything. He's one, smart, and two, he's got a lot of grit. You know, he will push on as long as he's capable. And you could tell he came into that fight with some sort of, you know, he was really angry. He's no more the nice guy. You know, he went in there. He was, you know, you could see it on his face. He was like, I'm not going down. I'm going to fight. I'm going to try to hurt this guy. I'm going to win. I want my belt back. The nice guy's done. The nice guy, Robert Whitaker, I think he's dead. And now you have basically angry Robert Whitaker that wants his belt, and he's willing to do whatever it takes to get that belt. So this is a whole new, like, a lot of people say, you know, mythical fighter unlocked. I really think mythical fighter unlocked, it's like angry Whitaker, you know, killer instinct Whitaker, whatever you want to say. But he really is trying to make himself into like a newer person, someone that's more serious and someone that's willing to, that wants to make things bloody. So he went in there and he was like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to win. And then Paulo Costa, I mean, probably ring rust. He was also doing this, he kept doing the showboating stuff. And, you know, the whole night I kept seeing people do this, you know, like, you know, Ian Gary was doing the showboating stuff, and it's, who else was doing this? I'm pretty sure there was a couple fights where they were doing like way too much showboating. And it's like, hey, can you just fight? Like, just go. Like stop like pointing the finger. Let's fight right here. Make him fight right there. You know, it's just such a waste of energy. Just go. Like, you only have so much time, and then it's like, of course you lost a decision. You know, Paulo Costa, he won the first round. He probably got edged out in the second, and then he definitely lost the third. And, you know, the whole fight was very disappointing because I felt like Costa could have done more. He could have, you know, I don't know if it's the ring rust or what it was, but he just, you know, he just wouldn't go. He was just, I don't know, afraid of getting hit or something. And then unfortunately Robert looked really good, but at the same time all he landed was really double jabs the whole fight. And you know, he fights really scared. It's the same way he fought Izzy the second time. He was mainly just throwing the jab. He would never throw his right hand. Would kind of throw some kicks here and there, inside leg kicks, maybe a back kick every now and then to the calf, and then really just throw double jabs. And it's like, you know, this isn't a Dark Souls game. You're not going to go in there and just, let me just, you know, poke them and then poke them and then poke them. And then, oh, okay, I won, you know, I poked them. Now I win the fight. You know, it's, I mean, maybe that works against like a ring rusted Paulo Costa. But do I think that he's going to do that to some of these guys in the top three? I mean, like, there's no way that Robert Whitaker, he probably would have done better, but he wouldn't have beat Dricus. Dricus would run at him, and he'll throw everything he has at him, from punches to kicks. He'll eat a punch in order to give a punch. He will take you down. He'll use everything he has, and he'll come at you with that killer instinct. He wants to win. I don't think Whitaker has the ability to do that, just because, again, he's just trying to, let me just out jab you, you know, and it's like, You're not going to do that to some of these higher level guys. I think Whitaker will always stay a top three guy. At some point, he'll realize this, I think, and then he's just going to call it quits. But yeah, good win for him for sure. And then I think I'm going to skip this one. The Neil Magny, or not Neil Magny, Jeff Neal versus Ian Gary. Now, this fight, again, it was another. It was the same thing, kind of. You had Ian Gary being the guy on the outside, picking him apart, and then you have Jeff Neal who was going forward, and he had to be, the guy, the bigger, stronger guy with the power. But the problem with him was he just didn't really want to fight. Like, it was very rare that he would go and throw a combination of punches. And when he did throw, he actually landed quite a bit. That fight, again, kind of like the Robert Whitaker fight, could have went really either way. The problem was Neal just wasn't active enough. And yeah, it's frustrating to have to like run after this guy, but that's what you signed up for. You knew that this is how this guy fights. You're going to have to come up with a strategy to chase him down, right? He's the prey. You're the predator. Go hunt him down. And he just didn't want to do it. You could clearly see he was getting very frustrated after, Ian kept running and running. But again, grab him. He had him in a clinch, right? You could clearly tell that the clinch was part of his strategy. And what did he do with it? He decided to do nothing. Like, he didn't throw punches. He didn't try to get a takedown. He didn't like stomp the feet. He didn't throw elbows, or he didn't throw knees. I mean, he could have done anything. Get him in the clinch. You're the stronger guy. Grab him. Don't let him get away, and make him pay while he's in the clinch, right? That would be the whole idea. Or take him down or something. Do something. He just grabbed him. He just held him there. And then eventually Ian got away, and then they would do it all over again. And then Ian would land some jabs, throw some kicks. Neal would land something very rarely, and then he would just get him up a fence, grab him, and just hold him there. And it's like, I don't know what this is. I know some guys, when they get into the cage, their mind is just kind of gets warped. Like, I don't know what it is. Maybe it was a mental thing where he just got in there. There was a ton of pressure on him, and he just like went into some weird, I don't know, monotone vision or something, where, that happens a lot. I mean, it's happened to me before in martial arts, where you go in there and you think you're ready to go, and then all of a sudden the environment gets you and you just freeze up. I mean, who knows what it was, but he definitely, that was the fight for him to lose. I mean, Neal should have won that. The best version of Neal versus the best version of Gary. I mean, Neal would win that more times than Gary would. So it's really unfortunate that we kind of get the bad ending with that fight. And then also the main card, of course, Volk versus Taporia. I want all of your guys' credit because I called it out. I said that I didn't say the round or nothing. I'll do that next time. I just don't like, being so specific, but I guess I could. But yeah, I said it. I called it. A ton of people did. I saw online, so it wasn't just me. But if you think about it logically, you look at Volk's wheelhouse. You look at the things he's good at, the things he's not good at, right? He's a well-rounded fighter. And that is a really, really good thing. This is why he's able to take out so many guys, right? Like, he goes up against, so many fighters, and he could out-kickbox you for 5 rounds. He could just take you down and beat you up for 5 rounds. He's had some finishes, TKOs and stuff like that. And he throws kicks, he throws punches. He's got great cardio. He's a strong dude. He doesn't give up. You have to finish him. So he has a lot of things about him which he's very strong at. But the problem is, when you get a well-rounded guy like this, in some ways he tends to be mediocre in a lot. So it's kind of like, if you were to look at Volk's stats, he's very high in a lot of things, but he's probably like a 5 out of 10 on a lot of things. He's not really like a 10 out of 10 on anything. And the good thing is when you're well-rounded like that and you go up against a lot of guys, all you have to do is like, okay, if you're going up against a better striker, then at some point take him down, right? And so it's like, there's always something that you're always going to be better than him at, because if you're going up against a pure striker, then you just got to out-grapple him, right? So, but the problem was, Ilya is good at enough things. He's not as well-rounded as Volk. I don't think anyone would say that. But he is good enough that it doesn't really matter. And he's a specialist in sort of things, right? When it comes to boxing, his boxing ability and his striking ability is definitely higher than Volk's, and his grappling isn't so bad that Volk would just say, okay, I'm just going to grab him and take him down and just beat him up. Like, his grappling is good enough that it wouldn't be that easy, because obviously Volk he never tried it at all, right? If he knew it was that easy, that would have been a part of his game plan. Would be, okay, we'll just take him down like you did, all these other guys, right? I keep forgetting his name, but the guy that kicks a lot, the Hispanic guy, I forget his name. I was saying it a bunch yesterday, but if you guys know him in the comments, that's what he did against him, right? He just took him down, he beat him up. That was basically what he did in that one. Brian Ortega, he took him down quite a bit, beat him up as well, but he couldn't do that to Ilya, and he knew if he did, it would be he would use up a lot of energy potentially to not get a lot out of it, because Ilya, he's got pretty good wrestling. So then it really came down to a striking battle, and obviously Ilya, his striking is definitely better than Volk's. I mean, Volk does not have knockout power. Ilya does have knockout power, so he already is like, if you land on him, you might sting him, you may hurt him, but you're not going to KO him in one shot. But if he lands on you, all it took was one shot really for Volk to take that shot at the end, right? It was one punch, technically. That combination, like, the left jab that he came in with, that landed. It didn't land deeply, though. And then the other punches didn't really land. He missed a few. And then he threw kind of a feint with a jab, and then he landed the right hook, which put him out. So, it was just everything logically was going against Volk. Like, what would Volk do, right? Okay, Volk was throwing jabs. He was throwing lots of kicks. He was doing what he had to do. He stayed at kickboxing range. That on paper, that's the best strategy for him. The problem is Volk is not a kicker, though. At no point in that fight, I don't think any of us thought any of Volk's kicks were actually doing damage. Yeah, I mean, most of them were getting blocked on the forearms. Most of them were, maybe he was landing the kicks, but he just doesn't have the snap in it. He doesn't have that like Barbosa leg kick or the Justin Gaethje leg kick that if he lands just one, you're like, uh-oh. If he takes two more of those, then it might be over, right? He doesn't have that ability. So it's like he's racking up points, but he doesn't have the ability to actually hurt Ilya in any way. Not from the kicks, not really from the punches. And his grappling isn't so good that he could just, I'm just going to take Ilya down and just beat him up for 5 rounds, right? Because you could kind of do that to some of these guys, like Holloway and some of these guys. I mean, Holloway's not a very athletic guy. He's kind of tall, lanky, He's someone that you could like out-athlete, which is kind of what Volk does. I think in most of his career, he just out-athleted most guys. And I think I saw some people talking about how Volk, when he gets out of an exchange, he keeps his head straight up and he moves backwards. The good thing is he keeps his opposite hand up to protect his chin, but the problem was the right hook was coming over the top. And so the problem with that is like, okay, he thinks like if a left hook comes, I'll block it with my right arm, right? And then he'll keep his kind of shoulder in, but the problem is the right hook came over the top almost, kind of like almost like a karate chop in some ways. It came over the top. And he had his head straight up like that, and he kind of ate that, and that was kind of the thing. And I mean, hopefully his team sees that and they find some way to say, look, if you exit exchange, we would rather you possibly duck a punch, so keep your head lower if you get out, as opposed to bring your head up, right? Because you're going up against a boxer. Ilya isn't really gonna. He'll throw kicks, but he's not going to be throwing front kicks down the middle. That's going to get you in danger if you decide to bring your head lower. So there are changes in Volk's game that he could change, but especially more grappling. That was probably the only advantage he had over Ilya, was he's probably stronger than Ilya. And if he tried to out-grapple him and just keep him close, like in Muay Thai range, and try to elbow and really just focus on the grappling part, like, yeah, stay at distance and kickbox. But at the same time, if he comes in with these big haymakers going for a takedown, stay close, keep it a grappling fight. I think a change in strategy would definitely be better for him. But again, he just what is he going to do? Like, he doesn't have any weapons to keep Ilya away from him. Like, when Ilya, he had a high guard and he walked them down, and all he could do was just kick the guard, throw a couple jabs. Yeah, he landed a couple jabs here and there, so that was good. But, Ilya was at no point, like, if you look at that final exchange, Ilya basically dashed in, went like face to chest on Volk, and then fired off you know, a combination of haymakers on him. And the only time you would do something like this is, one, you don't think the guy's going to strike you, or two, even if he did strike you, you can eat those punches. Like, he had no fear of Volk's attack ability, essentially, for him to just dash in on him like that. And that's something that I wanted Paul Acosta to do. You know, you're the bigger, stronger guy. Get in Whitaker's face and start throwing bombs. Like, you're respecting his attacks too much. You know, you have to disrespect this guy, and that's what Ilya did. Ilya wanted to win. He wasn't there to troll or anything like Costa was. He was there because he wanted the belt. He deserved the belt. He went in there. He had the ability to get it, and he went in there and took it. And strategically, there really wasn't anything Volk could do about it. He's never really fought a guy who had knockout power like that before. And, you know, in some ways, I don't want to take too much away from Volk, but you know, in some ways, it's like, if you look at his career, he's had like 3 fights against Holloway. He, you know, when he came up, he fought like Chad Mendez, and then he fought Aldo, which is probably his best win. And then he, you know, he went up against, in obviously Islam twice. He looked really, really good in that first one. But even in that first one, his striking just, it never really looked like, you know, Volk has like good striking to me. You know, he doesn't really have a specific style. He just kind of does things, right? He's not really a boxer. He kind of throws kind of like a sort of kickboxing style. You know, it's just, I feel like in some ways, people aren't going to want to hear this, but I feel like in some ways his career wasn't like, I don't know, too impressive. He was kind of fighting these guys, you know, like Brandon, no, did I say Brandon Moreno before? Oh, I meant another guy. You know, there was that fight he had where he was caught in that guillotine. It's just, I feel like the people he's kind of defended his belt against were just kind of like okay guys. Like, in some ways, I know Max Holloway has a ton of fans, and he's definitely a fun guy to watch. But in some ways, when you've watched his whole career since he was like 18, since I have, it's kind of like, you know, he was always kind of a mediocre guy floating around the lightweight division, you know, kind of top 10-ish. You know, he'd go from top 10 to top 5, kind of float in there. And yeah, when he got older, he got a lot better. And now he's using his gas tank as a means of you know, strategy. And so he's a way better fighter than he was when he like fought Connor or anything like that. But in some ways, you know, it's like when you're fighting all these guys that don't really have knockout power and they're really good in these kind of niche areas, it makes sense that a guy like Volk could out athlete these guys. You know, it's like Max Holloway's not a athlete. He's kind of a Nate Diaz guy. He mainly boxes, and he'll keep the pace on you. I could see a guy like Volk, you know, getting the better of someone like that. And, you know, and Chad Mendez kind of at the end of his career. And some of these other guys, I forget the guy again, who's really good at throwing kicks. He's got some great kicks. But at the same time, he's a tall, lanky guy. It makes sense that Volk could just go in, grab him, take him down, beat him up. And then same thing, the guy that got him in the guillotine, that guy too, he's kind of like so-so when it comes to striking. He's good on jiu-jitsu, obviously, but jiu-jitsu doesn't really matter anymore. So it kind of makes sense that, oh yeah, Volk would just take this guy down, beat him up. But, you know, when he went up in competition to like Islam Makhachev, someone who's got like sambo striking, someone that's got high-level elite grappling, you know, all of a sudden he really couldn't do much. And then the second fight, I don't really care about it because, you know, just getting off the couch after going on a bender for 3-4 weeks. I mean, you know, I don't care who you are. Even John Jones would have gotten kicked in the head. And obviously with this fight, you know, I think we finally kind of, I don't think Volk is old man Volk. I know people are saying that, but he didn't look old in there to me. That looked like the Volk that we've always kind of seen. You know, he looked really good in the fight too. He clearly won the first round. He had a good strategy. But, you know, I feel like we finally see a guy who's actually pretty dangerous and in that division. I think most of the guys are just kind of lukewarm in a lot of ways. And we just thought that they weren't because, you know, oh, these guys are the best. The UFC, these guys are the best of the best in the entire world. There's no way that there's anyone anywhere else in this world that might be twice as good as these guys, right? It's kind of the illusion that the UFC puts on. But yeah, in some ways, I think that was the Volk. That was actually how good Volk is, and we kind of saw that there's definitely levels to this game. Unfortunately, if Volk gets what he wants and he actually fights Ilya again, the same thing is going to happen. I mean, even if he goes out there and he's like, okay, I'm going to grapple this time, I'm going to put it on him. I'm not going to let him land that right hand. Like, he has a new stance and he starts throwing more kicks and he starts focusing just like on a whole different style. I still think that's going to happen. Like, you're going to fight him 5 rounds. At some point, you're going to eat one of those, and you couldn't even he couldn't even eat one of those in the first fight. So unfortunately for Volk, he seems to be focused on the rematch. That's probably all he wants to hear is the rematch. I see this with the journalists. They're all asking him all these questions. He's like, no, no, rematch. There's nothing else. But at the same time, unless they take a lot of time off, like 6 months or something, and he's like fully healed up, which I don't think he wants to do. I think he's focused on the rematch. He's most likely going to get knocked out again. Hopefully, we don't see Volkanovski go down this whole BJ Penn kind of like Frankie Edgar path where, he gets knocked out again, and then we see him fight like Max Holloway a fourth time, and then he gets kicked in the head, and then we see him fight another guy, and then hopefully it's not a horrible downward spiral. But I mean, unfortunately, I see him getting finished again. I told you guys he would get knocked out. He did get knocked out, and if they fight again, the same thing is going to happen. Unfortunately, that's just kind of how things are. It sucks. I wanted Volk to win too. My heart is with Volk, but my brain is with the person who I think is actually going to win. So, kind of sucks, but definitely a really good card. A lot of people are pissed off and very emotional over the wins and losses. So that's how you know it was a good card. So I'll see you guys on the next one.